Hi, and welcome to Human Tech, a podcast about the intersection of humans and technology. My name is Guthrie. I'm here with Susan Weinschenk. Hello.
Hello there.
And we also have a very special guest this week, Dr. Patricia Moore. Hello, Patricia.
Hello, you two.
And now Patricia is the president of Moore Design Associates. And what exactly do you guys do over there?
Well, it's more a question of, I think, Guthrie, what we don't do. And I was contemplating that when I knew you'd probably ask me. What we don't do is anything that I would categorize as harming people. And so the short answer would be that we have never worked within the realm of munitions. But the other side of that coin is that we do work with NATO and the wounded warriors globally in terms of helping people reclaim their lives when their bodies have been damaged by the vulgarity of war and violence. And so I have to admit, though, I'm about ready, because I just spoke about this, and we can go back to it in a minute if you like, to the User Experience Conference in Melbourne, Australia. I spoke to the subject of gun control from the perspective of redesign. And that really intrigues me. People have been talking a lot about smart weaponry that would know only a certain user should have the capacity of shooting a bullet that could end someone's life. And now I'm really aware that there might be a design answer in all of the tragedies of the massacres. And so I might have to pull back even from that response. So to repeat, what we do is we look at the design element in every aspect of our lives, our daily lives, how design as the global capital D defines us as consumers and as individuals. So it's both the sociology of design and certainly the artifacts and the presence of design in our lives.
So, Patricia is famous, and we met her in Stockholm.
Yes.
That's just the background. And I have no idea what we're going to talk about today. I asked Susan,
and I wouldn't tell you.
And you wouldn't tell me. So,
which I love that. I love that a lot. I love surprises.
Yeah. Well, so if I'm not asking great probing questions, it's because I don't know where this is going.
You'll get to ask questions. Well, the reason I wouldn't tell you is because, I don't know that I'm exactly sure. But I have some ideas of things that I want to talk about.
It doesn't instill
And
confidence.
I'm sure that we'll go off on tangents because we always do. And you're right. Patty, you are pretty famous. Does that bother you when people say that, or when they ask you, Patty, tell us how famous you are and tell us about your accolades, or do you like roll your eyes? Are you rolling your eyes?
No, I'm smiling because I think we should explain to people. I think we share a capacity, Susan. We make up our minds pretty quickly about people, and so I will warn the youngsters. First impressions are very important. And it's that old adage about you can't unring the bell, and putting your best foot forward, and all these things your grandmother told you, and she was the smartest person in the room. So make sure you think back on that. I know that the whole question of fame is something that I find problematic in terms of what we have today with social media. I will never understand why Kim Kardashian is famous. And I also don't give a hoot. But in terms of my fame, I've always recognized it as quite the blessing and the curse. The blessing is it opens doors. I'm a friend of Oprah. That really helps because it allows people to maybe see you more quickly and hear you more thoroughly than they would if they thought of you as a total stranger. And that's the sadness, I think, of what we have with communication technology today, beyond not getting handwritten notes and snail mail and getting people to phone you and have a chat and just a brief text. Those are some of the issues that I have for myself as a traditionalist. But because I'm also working in a world where we're trying to imagine what comes next and what the next great technology will be, I'm always looking at how does it impact quality of life. And so I find the fame helpful, but I also don't really build my self-concept around it. I always hear a little voice in my head that says, yeah, but I'm just a kid from Buffalo, New York. And I find it really humorous that people want to ascribe a value to you that really I'm not sure makes any difference.
Well, it is. It's interesting because, I mean, fame itself, and being a celebrity, and uh, in general, that's a whole strange thing, right? Just be,
Right.
if you do know Oprah, right, then that's like I don't know. There's this whole like cascade of automatic reactions that I think a lot of us have to someone who is famous or celebrity or knows a celebrity, right?
Yeah.
By association. But Guthrie, I have a question for you about that, which is,
Yes.
and then I want to get back to the stuff Patty's done, but because you've said to me we've talked a lot about generational differences, and you give talks on generational differences, and you've commented to me about how millennials, they, I mean, if one can stereotype an entire generation, which you probably can't, but youth, I think you were implying that people of your generation are less impressed by titles and accolades
Yeah, I can
and
tell this. I can tell the story. We were driving back from a workshop in Chicago, and I don't know if you remember exactly. And you had been worried that uh, that because for forever, whenever you start your talk, you ask what kind of raise your hand if you're in this generation or this generation, just to get a feel of the room. And you had noticed in the last couple of years a huge shift where basically the boomers were disappearing
retiring. Yeah.
and there were just tons and tons and tons of millennials.
Yeah, it used to be I had a lot of boomers and a lot of Gen Xers and only a little sprinkling. And then, of course, time moved on, right? And it changed. And now there was this huge group. Now I have some audiences where most of the people in the room are millennials, or at least half.
And you were worried that you would no longer be able to get the recognition or the kind of respect from the younger group.
Yeah, that I would be seen as being, too old to be of
Right.
relevance
Right.
to them. And keep telling the story.
Yeah, and so what's kind of actually happening is that it turns out millennials actually seem to like you even more than the Gen Xers.
Yeah.
And so my theory is that millennials care a lot less about traditional title and hierarchy structures. So, like I said, age, experience.
What about the idea of fame and celebrity? Do you think they're as affected by that as other people are?
Yes,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think I think they are. I think though I think there's certainly a subset. I think millennials kind of split in half, and there's definitely a subset of millennials who are very, very, very into fame and celebrity.
okay, and then there's others that are like, eh.
But again, just to finalize, I actually thought that millennials would like you more because after years of being on the internet, the only thing we really trust is people who actually like give facts, because our lives, whether it's or just kind of are in constant punditry, even if it's not about politics, like everyone is basically kind of just giving their opinion online all the time about everything, like movies. And so we as in millennials seem to respect just kind of data, facts, figures, back it up,
just
and then
opinion.
Yeah, and then if it seems you know what you're talking about, that's how you gain your respect. So that was my theory about why you were actually quite popular.
But not necessarily any difference on celebrity. All right, well we're excluding Patty here.
I think millennials generally. I don't know. It's hard to tell because I don't know. I I I think the bigger question is who they find as celebrity, who they like see, who they'd be in awe of, who
They might be in awe of someone
who's different. So like Gen Xers,
yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
like I would imagine Gen Xers would be exactly as smitten by celebrities as millennials as would boomers, but it just depends who the celebrity is changes, right? So maybe, and I just don't know who would really have that level of celebrity in older generations. So
Yeah.
I think back in the day, maybe political figures, or spiritual leaders, or intellectuals.
All right. So
maybe
Patty,
had that kind of respect.
what's the downside of celebrity, Patty?
I don't know. I'm just skewing.
Well, it's the corny stuff you hear someone talking about with Jimmy Fallon. You know, you're having your dinner and someone comes up to the table. But the nice thing for me, because I'm not that kind of famous, is people are very respectful and kind, and I'm very flattered by the recognition, therefore. So, you know, especially when I'm in New York City, you'll spot that a table has recognized you. You know, you've just come off doing the Today Show and you're meeting your girlies and having some brunch. And so you're wearing the same dress you were just wearing. And so people spot you. And otherwise, I'm not recognizable. People don't really see me as the person they just saw on TV or on stage. And so they wait till you finish your tuna fish sandwich, and then they come over and chat.
So they're not running over screaming and then pulling out the cell phones and interrupting your dinner.
Yeah, I'm not Johnny Depp or Meryl Streep.
So you have like a kind of a better level of celebrity.
I do. I have a very well, and I think it goes to the issue of merit, and I think millennials really embrace merit, and that's why I do have great faith in what they're going to achieve, and I'm very flattered that they invite us to conferences because I'm 65 next year, and if anything, I'm being treated with such lovely respect and consideration for what I know, and the fact that I love sharing it, because I want this very powerful generation of millennials to make it their own and make it better. And that's what we do generation after generation. With each new tool that we add to our box, we're getting better, or we should be. And it's only when we falter and step to the side, as we're seeing in some of the lunacy of the politics right now, that I think people of all ages take pause and say, wait a minute, is this really the path we want to take?
Now you, many years ago, well, you've been interested in aging issues, lifespan issues for, pretty much your whole working career, right?
Well, my mother and father each have a favorite story that actually puts my recognition of the distinctions of age and ability to me being about 2 and 3. And so somehow I got that gene. And I think in great part it was because we lived with our grandparents. And so I saw how the distinctions of capacity define us by design. It's not that people are broken, it's the interfaces they have with the stuff that we put into the consumer realm that makes us able or unable. And so that's why I bristle about people defining all older people as, gimps and geezers and handicapped and disabled. That just sends me off on an Irish tirade, rather. So I get really upset by that.
All right, well, give an example of what you mean by the fact that okay, it's not the people, it's the design.
Well, I remember a very painful episode from my girlhood where our grandmother was so sweet. She would never, of course, shoo us out of the kitchen, but I know we were driving her crazy half the time. And so she'd give you just a silly little task that would keep you busy as you chattered away. And she was trying to get dinner on the table because that was her great joy. And I was, putting green beans in piles of 10 or whatever she gave me to do. and very happily counting and talking to her about everything and anything. And I looked up when I heard the strange sound of an animal, really something painful. And I saw my grandmother pulling away from the refrigerator door and taking her hand and placing it under her opposite arm, and then slowly walking out of the kitchen as if dazed. And I realized in the silence of that pain that something terrible had happened. And I ran and got my mother. And my mother went into her room and spoke to her, and then came out and put the apron on and completed the dinner. What I had heard when my mother was in my grandmother's room was the soft crying of my grandmother. And it wasn't until I was actually in high school that we even talked about this episode, my mother and I. And it was that day that I realized my grandmother's life was beginning to change. Her arthritis had come to a point where just the simple task of bending her fingers around that handle on the door of the refrigerator and giving it a pull to open it became too painful and therefore impossible. And I grew up in the world of industrial design, product development and design, where the other people in the room would say, oh, well, she's just too old. And I would find that dismissive attitude, which was prevalent when I began my career in the 70s, as being absolutely appalling, if not criminal. And that's what defined my whole career by design, was recognizing what we can't do defines our capacity for autonomy and independence. And that's why it's so important.
So now that you're not, I don't want to call you old. You gave us your age.
No, but that's fun, Susan, isn't it? The only way we can use the terms young and old is if we use the median age. And the median age in the United States right now is roughly 38. So if you're older than 38, you're
then
old.
You're old.
And if you're younger, you're young.
All right. So
you've heard me on stage. I play with that kind of language with great deliberateness, because what I'm trying to point out, especially to the millennials, is it's a stupid waste of time and effort. So let's get rid of all these disparaging terms and these titles, because they don't serve anyone well.
So, all right. Fair enough. So I'll say, now that you're old, because you've been thinking about this for a long time, okay? But thinking about it when you're 25 or 30 or 35, is that different than thinking about it when you're 65? Like, how has any of your thinking about this changed now that you are older than you were when you first started?
Well, I do think we see behavior patterns according to age that are relevant. And so, when we're in our 20s and 30s and we're binge drinking or doing risky behaviors, we're saying to ourselves, well, I know I really, I could be doing better. And then you get to your 40s and 50s and you start thinking, well, I really should be working out or eating better. And then by the time you're at your 60s and 70s, you realize, there's no more time to waste and you must do things. So you go from could do, should do to must do, if in fact you want to take charge and control over the quality of your life. And that too is a choice. So we have all the issues of people determining the quality of their life by choice. But the control comes from the things we can change and the things that we can alter. And that, I would say, is the global issue of design with a capital D.
So do you think do you think people are more open or less open to these questions and design discussions now than they were before? I mean, I think on the one hand, it seems like people are becoming more aware. People are living longer, right? And I think just the whole, if you look at, quote, old people, there's such a huge range now of age, ability, disability, because people are, we're not just talking about people in their 60s or people in their 70s. We're talking about, anywhere from 55 up to 100. So there's just more of it. So in some ways, there's more awareness of specifically design issues for older people. But do you think in that way, then we also just get complacent and assume that somebody's taking care of that design? And so we don't have to, because yeah, everybody knows about that. So it's being handled. I mean, do you think?
I don't think it's complacity. I think it's awareness. The issue has always been awareness. I think that we have seen a shift, and it's a very important tipping, because we're going from this attitude of aging is a medical concern to recognizing aging is a consumer concern. And I've been a big piece of that philosophical change, I think, and I hope, because it is most important to getting corporations and governments to understand their role in provision. But I think what's happened thanks to media is we've gone from the very disparaging view of being an elder, to I've fallen and I can't get up, and comedians standing there and laughing about it, making jokes about incontinence, having the character actress saying, "Where's the beef?" And that becoming part of a political campaign. The nonsense of our recent past to now the relevance of when I see a commercial of a small child listening to his parents and their great concern about what are we going to do about mom? She's got to move in here, but we don't have room. And finally, the little boy breaks into this adult conversation and says, well, grandma can have my room. That's why I keep saying that I trust the millennial to get this right. I see that the generational shift in attitude about aging is getting healthier, and it's all because of awareness. And now the missing piece is this choice and control, and that's the coin of commerce. So everything we're doing to alter behavior and potential is coming from the provision of ability. We're not looking at someone who loses a limb now as having their life be over. And that's a very recent traditional attitude that has been tipped on its head, because now we have all sorts of compensatory technologies that are making a huge difference in terms of what people can do and what they want to do coming together.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Patty, what is your thought on then in regards to this retirement once you get to a certain age? Because recently, especially in the Great Recession that we just had, obviously there's an expectation, and I think it's more historical than anything, that again, I think it's rooted in, right, once you become a certain age, well, then you're feeble and you can't work. And over time, that's also kind of traditioned into, well, you've worked for a lot of years. It's time to, enjoy, the after the retirement part of your life with dignity and being able to have money and fun and that kind of stuff. So do you have any thoughts about the state of retirement? Because I mean, traditionally, right, 60 and you retire, but we're seeing way more people keep working way past that.
Well, you've just brought up a lot of really interesting pieces we can talk about. Let me start with the fact that in 1900 in the West, in the US and Canada, life expectancy was 40 years. And that's how remarkable our health and wellness factor is in terms of adding sanitation and sewage and improved food sourcing.
Thank you, penicillin.
Yeah, I mean, these are the things that almost overnight changed us from having essentially the same lifespan that we had in ancient Rome and Greece to now actually planning our 100th birthday with a sense of reality, that we're not just dreaming. My mommy's 89 in December. We're already starting to talk about her big party. And we do so with the hope that she will be well enough and with us at that point. And also the recognition that if she's not, isn't it remarkable that she's had this great life? Daddy didn't make it so far. He got to 85, but also a great life in consideration of the rigors that his father and his grandfather had, and the fact that working in the steel mills killed them. and probably killed my dad too, because he did have asbestosis from exposure. But the fact remains now, with media helping with good, solid, and truthful depictions of older people, what we see is, I call the Betty White factor. That one person, that beautiful person, took the millennials by the hand and heart. And I really think she's your poster child of somebody that, that's who you want. It's the whole booby thing, and the Grammy and the Nana. You want that woman to be your grandmother, and you want her to be your grandmother because she's fun and she's feisty and she's got all this great experience, and you could listen to her stories all night long. So we've had a tilt in and a shift in our attitude, not just about aging, but in terms of who our poster children are. And we love the presence of our elders in our lives, and we appreciably, in our heart of hearts, hope that we'll get there too, because now we have the promise that we're going to be well and we're not going to be sick. So retirement is going away, I think, for that emotional, psychological, sociological, cultural reason, but it's also going away because we can't afford to stop working at 65.
Yeah.
And this is why in the industrialized world, we're seeing 72 just around the corner in the EU, and certainly here in the States, as the retirement age for pensioning. But even past that, people want to work because they enjoy it, they love it, it gives you purpose. And let's face it, a life without purpose is a very lonely and can become an angry life. And I think that is where we look around the globe at the hot spots, the trouble spots. It's because we have peoples who have lost purpose, and without purpose, there's just no point.
I was just recently listening to not sure if it was a podcast or a radio program, where they were talking about in Japan, until very recently, like the last year, it was required that you retire at 62. I mean, you had to. You could not be employed after 62. And in very rare instances where for some reason you were needed to continue, your wages would be like a third of what they had been. And so this meant that, everyone stopped working at 62. And that has created its own series of problems. And they have, in Japan, they actually have a problem with not enough young people. So they were getting to the point where there aren't enough people to do the work that needs to be done. So they've recently changed this, and they'll let you keep going after 62, and that's like a big deal. And it's so interesting because over here, right? People definitely keep going past 62, and I agree with you, Patty. A lot of it is because the especially with the recession hitting and all kinds of other changes that occurred over the last 10 years in the U.S., there's a lot of people that just don't have any safety net, and or they feel not enough safety net, and they keep going. But I do think that we have a lot of social relationships through work. We have a lot of structure. And that for a lot of people in the past who were encouraged to retire at 55 even, right? That was a common age for retirement. They did so because they felt like they had to, but they didn't really want to, or even if they wouldn't admit it. And you also would see their health decline really quickly.
It's
after retirement.
Yeah, the correlation in the studies there, of course, literature is immense. It really is quite true. You hear these horror stories about poor Ralph. He just retired last Friday, and they were going to go around the world, and then he walked outside and had a massive heart attack and died. There seems to be a switch within us. I don't know that they found it yet in the brain, but there is a real danger to saying, I'm done at any point in our lives. Saying I'm done signals something very dramatic, and I think it does have an impact on our physiology.
All right, so we were talking about design stuff before. Um, I have a question for you about design. So you
Sure.
mentioned, for instance, weapons and perhaps the idea that we might have be able to do some innovative stuff in terms of weapons that would actually protect us from the violence of weapons of some weapons. But what other I mean, you could talk about that more if you like, but I also I'm interested in what areas of design, are there parts of design, are there different products that you feel we've not made enough progress on? Why the heck can't we, someone please uh, uh, fix this or put some funding behind this, because we're not gaining ground.
Well, I was struggling with two as you were speaking, Susan, but let me grab the one that came up second, and that's transit, personal transit, mass transit. We're seeing autonomous vehicles being pushed all over the realm now. The industry is embracing that we will, in fact, have this George Jetson world where we all are driving around in a vehicle that is technically robotically controlled. And I'm a big fan of that piece of technology, and I'm looking forward to how it's going to impact my future life. But I'm also asking those broader issues about infrastructure and community, and what by design can we put into play today. And so sadly in the States, we made a dramatic decision to go for four wheels, one person. And that took up a lot of our resources, and we're still struggling with the aftermath of that. Here in Arizona, we had federal funds available to us for a rapid rail between Phoenix and Tucson. I ask any person on the street what they think about that today, and they all look so longingly, oh, wouldn't that have been great? Because the drive between Phoenix and Tucson is so painful. And if we have a dust storm, it shuts that one highway down. We have one lousy link between two great cities, and the whole country shuts down because of these dust storms. It's just amazing to me that we've dug this hole for ourselves. So as we look at what should transit be, I'm also defining it within the realm of our nest. So just remembering my dad struggling to get out of his lounger in the den just to make it to the toilet in time. He no longer had that capacity for personal mobility. And is it a Segway-esque kind of toy and tool that we should be building for ourselves? Should we have some kind of magic slippers that glide us along the floor? Whether our issue is bariatrics or paralysis, I don't know what the answers are, but I do know what the needs are. And so I'm looking at transit as being just a wide open field, well beyond bullet trains and, Google cars. And I'm also looking at every aspect of being a consumer with that autonomy and independence we talked about. Yesterday or the day before, there was a very snarky article posted by a British writer, and he was speaking against Amazon developing the tools by which within our home, whether it's a matter of creature comfort or basic necessity, you can have the stuff of everyday living delivered to your home. And he found this a very lazy offering, and he was really, I think, demoting Amazon's creativity and innovation in a manner that he simply missed the big picture. And for me, the big picture was, if my mother needs toilet tissue, I love the fact that she'll be able to tell the empty toilet paper roll, oh, please deliver some new paper for me. And that the doorbell will ring the next day and she will have her toilet tissue. That's what the companies like Amazon are looking at. What will keep us fiercely independent and capable within the nest that we choose as our home? And those are the two major areas, I think, that I'm looking to in terms of what we do today and what we can do in the future by design. And I find it a very thrilling time. I also realized my dream of stopping all this and going back to my roots of wanting to be a painter. Probably it's not going to happen anytime soon.
Now, you don't mean house painter, do you?
No, I was a fine artist. I went off to college at 17, and I really thought I was going to be Picasso. And I had a single professor had been watching me, and he put a stack of journals for the Industrial Designer Society in front of me and said, "Do you know what industrial design is?" And I said, "No, because nobody knows. That's why we call it product design now." Um, and I took a look, and as he had suggested, if I was intrigued, to come see him, and I was camped out at his office door Monday morning and changed my major.
Hmm. And we lost the next Picasso.
I know, it's
But
a
look
sin.
what we gained.
Oh, you two just like me too much.
Oh, but now you can retire and go be Picasso.
Well, I want to go back to that because I do look at this. I had, right around the time we met, I had just had my annual eye appointment. And my eye doctor is one of my dear friends. And I saw this change on her face when she pulled her chair away from the stool where I was surrounded by all those gadgets, when they check you out. And I thought, oh my gosh, Anne has to tell me some bad news. And we don't have the greatest vision in my family. There's macular degeneration, and there's cataracts and things like that. Mom can only see out of one eye. That was a birth anomaly. And so I realized, here it comes. And sure enough, she said, "Well, you have drusen." And I was like, okay, drusen, it sounded like a Dutch chocolate to me or something, but it wasn't. So it's these nasty little particles that, congregate in our eye orbit, and they cause, they think, macular degeneration. So that was heartbreaking for me because I thought, oh, damn, I'm never going to be Picasso too. But there are things I'm already doing. There's supplements I can take. I eat carefully, and then we have to wait for the roll of the dice. That said, it made me do yet again, and I do this pretty frequently. I'm always asking, "What if?" That's really how I think my creativity works. I'm always pushing clients past what they say the brief is for what they want to. Well, what if we tried this too? And so I always ask myself, what if I go blind? What if I lose hearing? What if I get arthritis and can't hold a paintbrush? What if I can't walk to get to an airport and get on a plane and end up on a stage with ease? And I'm always, contemplating that question, not out of any morbidity, but rather out of planning. What will I do to supplement, to change, to alter my way of life so that I can continue to have a way of life that I find appealing? And it always brings me back to my darling friend, Julia Child, who surprised not just me, but everybody, I think, when she announced one day she was going to leave Cambridge and go into assisted living. You could have knocked me over with that proverbial feather. I never thought I would hear that. But when you spoke to her about it, what she said was, when I came to a point where I could no longer lift my arm above shoulder height or bend down below knee height, I knew I couldn't cook because I couldn't reach my tools, and my time had come. And she literally and figuratively hung up her apron and decided she was going to have her final days in sort of a hotel existence. And I had to ask myself that question, would I ever be comfortable accepting that? And it gets back to something I think you said earlier, Guthrie. Ask me that question 10 years ago, 20 years ago, definitely, I would have really been ferocious about saying, no, it's never going to happen. Today, as I near 65, I'm realizing I'll be okay with that. But what I'm hearing myself say, if I can paint, so the thing that does frighten me the most would be losing my vision. Because then, of course, painting would take on a whole new meaning. But that said, I have a friend who is near black blind, and he's a fabulous photographer. So you never say never.
And well, okay, so this brings up all kinds of interesting things. Well, first of all, there's the technology like the Brainport and the new technology in which the Brainport is where you put the device on your tongue, and then you're wearing the glasses with the camera, and it transmits the signal, a video signal from a camera into your tongue, and then a different part of your brain, quote, sees rather than your vision.
Precisely. Yeah, we're seeing differently, and that's what's so important, is to focus on compensatory and supportive technologies that allow us to do
now,
things.
I don't know if you could see enough to paint, but also the technology is really early, so maybe, in a little while it'll get better. But I think there's also this interesting thing, as you were talking, I was thinking about, it's really hard sometimes to know when do you, and this is true for younger people as well, it's not just older people, when do you say, I'm going to accept that this is happening and admit that this is happening, and then take action so that I can, live the way I want to as best I can, instead of denying it, right? Instead of pretending that, oh no, it's just fine. My arm doesn't hurt, my shoulder doesn't hurt. But on the other side of that, I think it's hard to know sometimes, wait a minute, what is this happening because it truly is a limitation I have? Or, am I not working hard enough to find a solution or a cure or a fix? Should I just accept that, my shoulder doesn't work anymore? Or is there something I could do about it, and I haven't done it yet? And I think as one gets older, it's hard to know when you are being, practical and positive and, living, making adjustments in your living, or whether you are, giving in to aging in a way that you shouldn't.
Well, you've just brought up one of my favorite subjects, especially with students of design, and certainly with clients that are all looking to be the next Apple. I always talk about M&Ms and not just the candy, although I do love the plain. And the M&Ms I'm talking about would be the magic and the miracles. And the magic and the miracles, I don't think we ever want to give up on. It's sad enough when you have to face the fact that there's no Easter Bunny or Santa Claus. But that said, you still want an Easter basket full of chocolate. And I have so many of my Jewish girlfriends who get really upset when I forget to give them an Easter basket. It's like, excuse me, wait a minute, that's a different playbook. But they they're insistent on the tradition now, and that makes it fun for all of us. And so I think that's the giddiness and the fun and the silliness and the playfulness of an entire life. And I see it every time I go into a skilled care setting. The elders who are teasing you and playful and having fun are the ones who are in much better shape, even if physiologically their bodies have just quit a long time ago. Their capacity in terms of personality and spirit, they're the ones who want to wake up every morning. And then you'll meet people with very little to complain about, but they are just the grumpy Gusses who make you want to leave the room and go find somebody else to talk with, because they just have lost faith in M&Ms. And when we don't expect as consumers that somebody's going to get this issue I have today figured out tomorrow, then I think we should be giving up. But that's why I know we can't, because we do have M&Ms. Every day, some other promise comes to the forefront, whatever arena you're working in. Like just recently, having a medication that is dissolving plaque in the brain. Big advance potentially for Alzheimer's disease.
Yeah, that was huge.
And one of Guthrie, the thing that I'm getting chills here, about this, the excitement of this is the stat we work with is 1 in 2 people will have intimate relationship with the disease of Alzheimer's by 2050. And that refers to the fact that everybody's going to have somebody in their close personal sphere that's dealing with it. So you might cover for a buddy at work who needs to take his grandmother to a physician, or needs to go visit mom, and they're suffering with Alzheimer's, and your friend is a good son or grandson, and lovingly you also are trying to help in his situation. Or it might be that, my sister develops the disease and I can't go running around the world anymore because I choose to be with her and tending to her. And so we're going to have this tremendous shift in how the population deals with one physical aspect of late life. And so any tools that we can put into play, the M&Ms really will make a difference for the very near future.
Yeah, that Alzheimer's research is really, really interesting because it's the most expensive single disease in the United States.
Well, it's already crippling so many families around the world, and it's only going to get worse if we don't get some answers.
All right, I have a question for you now. I want your tips and techniques for you. You are a world traveler.
Yes.
And that's not just a metaphor.
No, my commute, when someone comes to the meeting table groaning and moaning that it took them an hour to drive in this morning, I have to give them a hairy eyeball that says, yeah, well, I flew 19 hours, so shut up.
So, I mean, you really fly. I mean, when we met you in Stockholm, you had just come from London. You live in Arizona and New York, right?
Uh-huh.
You have a home in Arizona, a home in New York. And we met you in Stockholm. You had just come from London. And then after Stockholm, you were going back to London. I know that just a few days ago, you just got back from Australia and New Zealand. And you told us some crazy story about like how many days in the past year you'd actually been home or.
Oh, my deranged assistant, who I adore, but she loves numbers, Guthrie. You'd get on well with her. She created an Excel chart, this tremendous Excel chart that goes back to 1982, and we found that on average, I'm out of the office 242 days each year.
It's just,
wow.
Like, I mean, because I can, how many millions of miles have you flown?
All told, 12 million.
Now, okay.
How many?
12 million.
12 million.
12 million.
Okay, hold on. I gotta do some.
Yeah. He's doing.
I gotta crunch some numbers. I'll be right back.
Well, so my question for you. I mean, I don't think I could do it, and
I don't think you should do it.
I'm not going to do it. It's not a question, but I'm just saying I don't even think I could. But certainly you must have some. Well, all right. I have a bunch of questions around this. Okay, first of all, like, do you enjoy it? Like,
well,
are you doing it because you feel that you have to? Or are you doing it because you can't let go of the opportunities? Are you doing it because you enjoy it?
By the way, would you guys like to
go ahead,
to know?
We're crunching.
So, with those miles that you've flown, okay, you could have flown to the moon. And back. Hold on.
How many times?
And back 25 times.
Okay. How many times would I have been with Matt Damon in Mars?
I don't think it would have got you to bars.
Well, no, but Susan, you make such an important point for us to consider, and it's really what we've been talking about today, and that is choice. And so, yes, it's my choice to get on that aircraft. But I am so tremendously humbled and honored every time I receive a request to come and work with a company or a government or come to a conference. I couldn't be more delighted, and it's without vanity, that people want me to join the party. I find, the whole concept, I think Noah had it right. We have to have two of everybody at the party, or we're not going to get the right answers. And so I'm absolutely delighted that I've been included in so many wondrous things that have changed quality of life over the years. From the first mammographic machine that releases the breast automatically as soon as the x-ray is completed, so it's less painful for us as women to be examined against breast cancer, to the first full-body tomography system, to a vegetable peeler that people with arthritis can hold comfortably in their hand and make dinner. And let's face it, that one was for my grandmother. So I'm delighted to do all these things. Do I like the travel? Certainly not. It's become absolutely inhumane. It's often why I start with slides of, ladies and gentlemen in suits and ladies with their white gloves and hats, and everybody looks so proper and kind and polite. And that's, that's a big fat dream, because you see the behaviors on aircraft and you can't quite believe it. And then, it's the danger involved. I must say that my mother sometimes has been deliberately kept in the dark about where I am in the world, because I know she worries so. She keeps a daily diary of my flight numbers, and she watches the news. And I know she's always looking for a downship, thinking that I might be gone. And I don't like worrying her that way. But it's tedious, and it's not good for our bodies. When you look at the cancer rates among flight attendants and pilots, they are beyond the norm. And so, yeah, those are the dangers of the job. And I don't mean to make myself sound so heroic, but you do it because that's how you get to work, and that's how I take it. Of course, the other piece is I'm up front or I'm on a private plane, and that makes it so much better. If someone told me they could only pay for an economy ticket, then I also have the great privilege, due to success, of being able to upgrade myself. So I have some basic rules. I do what I can to treat myself well, and then I look for service and the hospitality industry to meet me halfway.
Well, with 12 million miles, you probably have accrued at least a good amount of upgrade points over.
Yeah, and
over
I give those to Make-A-Wish, which I really love doing. Nothing makes me happier than when I see a couple of soldiers at the gate and getting to go to the desk and putting them in first class. I love being able to do things like that.
That's cool.
That really tickles me. And let me also share, especially, Susan, you and I do so much public speaking, and Guthrie, you do a fine share too. When I accept an honoraria or a speaker's fee, what we do with it is we tally everything up, and at the end of the year, we take that total, and then I double it and give it to my chosen charity of the year. And so this year it's Parkinson's disease and research for Parkinson's. And I challenge other famous people to do the same thing with that money, because I consider it found money, and I think it's made to be given away.
All right. So give us one tip, one travel tip.
Wear black.
Wear black?
Yeah.
Why?
Everything I pack is black. It's forgiving. No, seriously, I don't check luggage no matter how long I'm gone.
You don't?
Oh, no. I'm a big fan of hand wash in the hotel. I don't let their laundry service take my things. I do
so
my own.
You travel light.
I travel very light. I pack, this is not a plug, but Eileen Fisher is a genius. That woman really deserves a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in my book, because she is my uniform. Everything's, mix and match. And I am a matchy. My shoes and bag have to match, very Lucille Ball and that generation. But I deliberately travel with 2 pairs of shoes. I wear my biggest pair of shoes, which usually means my, cross trainers, on the plane, so that they take up, less space in the suitcase. I always have one fancy dress outfit, because inevitably I have to go to some sort of a dinner party. But everything is based on black, and then fabric technology that's forgiving, so that I can roll things and scrunch up things and hand wash things. I haven't worn a structured suit in probably 30 years. And also, I get away with murder because people are hiring a designer or a famous person. And so they expect you to be wearing a costume, not an outfit. So I get away with costumes. And, so I really refer to what I wear on stage as a costume.
I have a friend who travels a lot. And one of the things she said she does is she takes on her trips her older clothing and then throws it away.
I have done that, especially in countries like when I'm in China or Russia. When you see the want in emerging countries, I found early on in my career, it's a nice thing to leave with an empty suitcase. So I leave it deliberately for the chambermaids. And the way I first recognized that, Susan, was I was in Moscow in the 70s, and I had tossed away a pair of pantyhose with a runner. And the next day, they hadn't collected the trash from the little, wastebasket in the room, but the pantyhose were gone. So it dawned on me that poor woman had taken them and she was going to mend them and make them her own. And so I left her all my clothes. And that's when I started doing that. I like that one. Plus, it means if you're in London, you get to go shopping, and it helps the economy. And I'm a citizen.
I really like this. I've been taking notes about this particular section of our conversation. So,
well, I will tell you, over the years, and I won't name her, very famous writer, we were both hired to, I guess I was doing the opening keynote and she did the close or something like that. But she shows up without a suitcase, and her agent told me that she literally, I guess, has a pair of panties in her purse or something, but she wears one dress and she'll wear it for the day she travels, the day of the event, and the day when she goes home. And I could never do that. That would just give me shivers.
Yeah, I couldn't do that either.
Yeah, that would
That's
really
too far. That's too far. Although it'd be interesting if you could wear layers and then just shed the most innermost layer and keep going.
That has happened to me. And one of the reasons I don't check bags is I was going to give a lecture in Hamburg, and my bag was checked in at JFK and only went as far as London, and it took them a full week to get it to me.
Yeah.
And thank God I was wearing one of those suits, back in the 80s where there was like a vest and a blouse and a skirt and a jacket and a scarf. And so each day I removed.
You just jettisoned one layer.
And tried to make it look different. But of course it was hot pink, so it was really hard to miss me. That's also when I decided on black.
Black, everything black. All right. Well, I've got your travel tips. Patty, thanks so much for joining us. So tell us, before you leave, what's your latest, thing you're doing? Where's the next place you're going?
Oh, well, I'll be in Bergen, Norway later this month.
Bergen.
And it'll be to give a speech at the annual design week. So I'm very thrilled to be doing that. And then when they heard I was going to be in town, some of the academics in the area asked if I'd also come to 2 universities there to speak to the young puppies. And, so it's time to make the donuts. I'll be working with the students. I'm going to do a workshop one day, and I'll do a lecture another day. And that's, I have to admit, guys, that's why I get out of bed now. I love doing that. I just have such faith in the bright buttons. I truly, truly do. And that's not pandering, hoping that someone will take care of me because I don't have children. But no, I have every hope that the great geniuses will make me a robot of my choice, which is Johnny Depp as Captain Jack. You can keep Pepper. I'm not interested in
You don't want Pepper?
I don't want a marshmallow man. I want Captain Jack carrying me around.
All right. Well, someone keep that in mind. Patty wants Johnny Depp as the personal robot, as Captain Jack. If people want to get hold of you, Patty, what's the best way for them to find you?
They can check in on LinkedIn, and we'll take it from there. And let me just say, bless you both. The work you're doing is so essential, and I'm so honored and delighted that now we're not just friends, we're family. And that's really the best thing about travel, is wherever I go, I always make a new family member. It's the best part of my life.
I have to agree with that. I have so enjoyed the new friends that we make when we travel. And I hope that we get to not just talk to you, but we get to see you one of these days.
Well, I'm sure we will. I have every faith.
All right.
Take care, you too.
All right. And Guthrie, let's remind everyone, if they like our podcast, they should share it. They should rate it on iTunes or anywhere else. And anything else you have for us, Guthrie?
No. Thank you for listening. It's I just want to say again, thank you, Patty. And if that's it, I think we'll probably wrap up. I have to say, we are going to be almost exactly 1 hour on the nose.
Hey, that's unusual.
I mean, we don't have a time limit, but it's just impressive.
Hey, I'm a pro.
Consummate professional. That's right. Okay. Well, thanks for listening, everyone, and hopefully we'll have you back on at some point in the near future. I hope.
I'd love it.
Yeah, if you ever actually have a specific topic that you really want to go at, let us know and we'll make it happen.
Let's talk in November.
Okay, will do.
Okay.
All right, thank you, and thanks for listening.